Hello my friends, in this tutorial I'm going to be helping you level up your Tailwind CSS skills. So this is what you're going to be building. You can see we have a navigation bar and we have this main section, the dashboard, and we have the name of the user. Welcome back, Alex. And also we have these small sections, and all this you're going to be doing using Tailwind CSS. We also have another page whereby we have a few more sections. We have this graph, we have buy and sell section, order book, market overview, and also your portfolio. So all this you're going to be doing using Tailwind CSS, HTML, and JS. And yes, Tailwind can do complex things. Many people have been underestimating and also hating Tailwind CSS, but I advise you learn it. It's a good tool. So these are some of the good stuff that I've been building using Tailwind CSS. You can see this is a movie site and it looks nice. And also we have another one. This is a dev pot. You can see we have building with digital and it looks nice. We have glassmorphism, and also this is a gaming site. You can see we have neomorphism button, and also we have some animations. You can see when I hover over this section, it's behaving somehow well. So we have this button also, it's using neomorphism, and we have a watch trailer, and we have trending game section. But for this tutorial, you're going to be building this Nexus dashboard, and I would advise you to watch till the end. But before we start, you should get the starter files. So head over to GitHub, check the link down below, and it's going to redirect you to GitHub. And then I want you to click on this green button, code, and then download zip. Once you download the zip, extract it, and then open the file, the starter file with Visual Studio Code. You're going to find the boilerplate. I've put it there for you, and you can code along with me. So with that, let's start learning to code. But first, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends about this video so that we can reach a bigger audience. Let's jump right in. So if you've downloaded the starter files from my GitHub account, you have this template, and inside the template you have the boilerplate. And you can see we have a few links, and we have our title, Nexus Dashboard and Crypto Exchange. And also down there we have a script tag. And inside the script tag we have some JS code. So this block of code is just a Tailwind CSS configuration override that I've written inside my HTML. So it's just basically the in-page version of tailwind.config.js file. So you don't need to understand so much right now. What I think we need to do is to start working on our project. So first, make sure you have Live Server installed. I'll be using Live Server. Live Server helps me to avoid refreshing all the time. If you don't have it, just head over to this extensions tab and then search for Live Server. Once you see it, you're going to click on the first link, and you can see it has been created by Retweet Day, and it has 71,674,478 downloads. So download it. After you've downloaded it, if you are asked to restart Visual Studio Code, just do it. If not, just right click on your program and you can see this open with Live Server button, and if you click on it, it's going to open your project in Google Chrome. So every time you make a change in your website, you won't have to refresh it manually. But if you choose not to install Live Server, you're going to have to refresh manually every time you make a change. Also, I'd like you to know that I will not be saving my file manually. That's because I'm using the autosave feature. So if you head over to File and scroll down, you're going to see autosave. Just click on it and then activate it, and you're going to use autosave. So let's go ahead and start. So first we're going to start styling our body. So we're going to give it a class, and we're going to say bg-dark, and then we're going to say text-white. So if we come back to our website, we're going to notice that we have a dark background. And if we put any text right now inside, let's say h1 and say hello from Tailwind. If we come back, we're going to realize that our text is now white. If we don't say text-white, we're going to have a black text. And since we have a dark background, we are not going to see our text. So I'm going to remove the h1, and we're going to jump right in and start. So first we're going to start with the navigation tabs. So I'm going to make a comment here and then just say navigation tabs. So I will create a div open the div, and then I'm going to style the div. The advantage of Tailwind CSS is you can just style as you go. You don't have to create everything you need. So for me, I always style as I move so that I don't have to come back and start styling again. So I'm going to say class, and we're going to start with fixed. That is for position. And then I'm going to say top -0. And then I'll say left -0. And then I'll say right -0. And then I'm going to say BG darker. And then I'm going to say Z-50, that is for Z index, and say border -B. And then border -B just stands for border bottom. And I'm going to say border -gray I'm going to say 800. So if we come back to our website, you can't see anything yet, but eventually you're going to see it. So after styling that, we're going to move to the next div, and I'm going to create another div and then style it. So I'm going to give it a class, and I'm going to say max-w-7XL, 7 extra large. So if you haven't learned about CSS, you're going to have a little bit trouble understanding Tailwind CSS. Just pick any CSS crash course and then go over it quickly, or if you want me to do a CSS course, just tell me in the comments down below and I'm going to do it. So let's continue. I'm going to say MX, that is for MX just is margin for horizontal margin. So MX-auto. And then I'm going to say px-4. And then we're going to create another div, which is going to have 2 buttons inside. So we create another div, and then we're going to say flex. Oh, it should be inside the opening tag. So I'm going to say class and then say flex. And then I'm going to say space-x-y. So space-x-y is just spacing horizontally. If we say space-y, we're doing spacing vertically. So let's create 2 buttons right now. I'm going to say button. This is the first button. I'm going to say SaaS, and then I'm going to say dashboard. This is the first button, and we're going to style it. So I'm going to say class, and then first, before class, I'm going to give it an ID. So we can target it in JavaScript, because we're going to need JavaScript functionality to switch between the tabs. So I'm going to say ID, and then I'll say SaaS-tab. And then now we can jump over to styling the classes. So we can say py-4. So this is padding y, which is for vertical, px-2, and then we can say border-b-2, and then border-primary, and then I can say text-primary. We're using this color that we created up here, so primary color is what we're going to be using down here. And then next we can say font-semi-bold, and then next I can give it a transition, and we can say all, then duration -300. So let's come back to our website. If we come back to our website, you can see we have this beautiful button that we have already styled. Now you see we have border bottom, which is using blue color, which looks really nice. So the next thing we're going to do is just to duplicate the button, then change the name. So I'm going to copy all the button code, and then I'm going to press Shift, then Alt, then down arrow key, and I'm going to duplicate it. Then I'm going to change the text inside the button and say crypto, and then exchange. And if we come back to our site, look at what we have right now. It looks very, very nice. Great. Let's continue. So we're going to start working on our SaaS dashboard. So I'm going to create a comment. So I'm collapsing this tab so that I can have more space for you to see. So the next thing I can do is just to create a comment and say SaaS dashboard, and then we can start styling it. So first we can create a div, and then style it. I'm going to say div, and then I'm going to give it an ID of SaaS dash content, and then I'm going to give it a class also. So I'm going to say dot, I'm going to say pt-16. So pt stands for padding top. So if I press enter, you can see it already has the ID and the class finished. So the next thing we can work on is the sidebar. So I'm going to create a comment here. Comments are so useful when you'll be reading your code in your own time. You're going to know where to get every part of the code you need. If it's the sidebar, maybe you're working on a different project and you want to jump right back to this code and check what you did on that project and apply it on the other project, you can just head over straight to the comments and know this is what I need. So let's work on the sidebar. So I'm going to say sidebar, and me say and main layout. So we have a div which is going to have our sidebar and also the main layout divs. Okay, let's create another div, and I'm going to give it a class, and I'm just going to give it a class flex so that we can have the sidebar on the left and the main layout on the right. So again, I'll create another comment so that we can know that right now we're working on our sidebar, and then we can start working on the sidebar itself. So we can create a div and then give it a class and start applying our styles. So I'm going to say width 64, I'm going to say w-64, and then bg-darker. We worked on bg-darker up there if you look at the scripts tag, and then we can give it a min -height -screen, so we want it to be full screen, and then we can give it border -r, and then we can give it border -gray -800, and then we can say fixed. So let's see if we are going to see anything, and you can see we have it. So we have this beautiful layout. You can see this border and this one also. So on our left we have the sidebar, and in the right side we're going to have our main layout. So let's continue. We're going to create another div, and we're going to give it a style. Let's give it class, and then we're going to say p-6, that is padding -6, all sides. And then inside that div we're going to have another div, and we are going to, let's give it a class, and we're going to say flex, and then items, center, and then we're going to say space -x-3, and then we're going to say mb-8. And then we're going to come inside the div, and we're going to create another div which is going to have an icon. So we're going to give it a class again. First let us create the icon so that we can see how it's going to look. So we're going to say I, and then we're going to give it a class, and then we can say FAS, and then FA-cube, and then text-white. So if we look at our website right now, we can see we have this icon right here. So let's continue working on it and see what we're going to get. So outside the div with the icon, we're going to have, let's say, text nexus. So we're going to create a span, and then we're going to give it a class, and then we're going to say .text-excel, and then .font-bold, and then we're going to press enter, and then we're going to say nexus. If we come back to our site and look, we can see, oh, I did some misspelling, so it should have been nexus, not nexus. So nexus, correct. And I don't know what's happening with our icon, but it should be looking good right now. So we're going to work on it later. So let's work on the div that has the icon. So let's give it a class and then apply the stylings. We're going to say w-8 and then h-8. W stands for height, for width, and h stands for height. bg-gradient 2-r, and then from dash primary, and then to dash blue dash 400, and then we're going to say rounded dash LG, and then we're going to say flex, and then items dash center, and then justify dash center. Now let's look at our website again. You see what we have. We have this beautiful box around our icon, and then we have the text Nexus. Now let's continue. So we're going to create a nav. Underneath this div, we're going to create a nav. Let's do that. I'm going to say nav, and then we're going to give it a class. We're going to say space dash y dash 2. And then we're going to open the tags and start working on our nav. So we're going to have a couple of anchor tags. So we're going to say A, and then we're going to give it a hashtag that's going to tell our page that when someone clicks on this link, just redirect them back to home page. So nothing is going to happen. And then we're going to say class, and then we're going to say flex, and then items dash center, and then space dash x dash 3, and then next we're going to say p dash 3 also, and then we're going to say bg dash primary, and then we're going to have an opacity of 20, and then we're going to say text dash primary, and then rounded dash LG, and then border, and then we want the color of the border to be border dash primary, and then opacity 30. So let's look at what we have right now. This is what we have, but we need some text inside the anchor tag. So we're going to have an icon, and we're going to have a span. So I'm going to open the anchor tag, and then just say first I'm going to have the link. So I'll say I, and then I'm going to give it a class, and then I'm going to say FAS, and then FA dash chart dash bar. I don't know why the icons are not working well, but we will work on them shortly. So let's continue with span, and inside the span we're going to have dash board. So if we come back to our website, we can see we have dashboard, which looks very nice. Underneath the first anchor tag, we're going to have a few more. So we're going to say again A, and then press enter, and then hash, and then we can just say, we can give it a class of, let's start with our icon, and then say class, and then we're going to say FAS, FA dash users. And then after that, we're going to have a span again, and inside the span, we're going to say customers. And then we're going to give it a class. So first, if we look at what we're going to have right now, this is what we have. So we need to add some more styling. So inside the class, let's work on it. We're going to style the anchor tag. So we give it a class, and then we say flex, and then items dash center, and then space dash x dash 3. And then next we're going to say p dash 3 also. And then we're going to say text dash gray dash 400. And then when someone hovers on it, we want it to have a text dash white. And then we want to, when someone hovers on it again, we want a background. Let's say BG dash accent. Great. And then we want it to have a rounded borders. So we're going to say dash LG. LG stands for large, and then transition. And then now let's look at it again. So you see what happens when someone hovers on it. We have this border around it. Now we're going to select this anchor tag, the one we've just been styling, and then we're going to copy it, I think 2 or thrice. So we're going to hold shift, alt, and then down arrow key, and then 1, 2, 3. Once we do that, if we come back to our website, you see what we have. We have this other links. So we just need to change the text and the icons. So let's start with the second one. We're going to say class. We're going to say From inside the span, we're going to change the text from customers to orders. And then we're going to change the type of the icon. So we're going to say FA dash shopping and then dash cart. And if we come back, we still see nothing, but we see the text has changed, and we're going to continue doing that. So we're going to change the next one also, and we can say FA dash chart dash pie. And then next we can change the text and we can say analytics. And then finally we can change the last one. We can change the last one then, and we can say FA dash COG or COG if you prefer that. So inside the span, we're going to say settings. So if we look at our website, you see it's coming to life, and slowly by slowly, it's looking good. So let's work on our links and see what the problem is. And I can get this error on my console. So I guess the problem is the link tag that we are linking to. So this one up here, we're going to look for latest version. So just head over to FontAwesome CDN, then press enter. And then I'm going to click on copy link tag. And then I'm going to remove all this and paste in the new link tag that I've gotten. So if we come back to our website, I think it should work. So yes, you can see our icons are now working very, very well, and that's awesome. So let's continue working on our project. So after we are done with the nav, I want underneath the closing tag, I want you to create another div. So we create another div, and we're going to have some stylings. So let's work on the stylings immediately after we created the div. So I'll say class, sorry again. I'm going to say mt-8 pt-8. By the way, if you guys want a full Tailwind CSS course, just tell me on the comments down below and I will work on it as soon as I can. So we're going to say border-t. So all the T stands for top. So margin top, padding top, border top, and then we can say border-gray-800. So let's see if we can see something. And we can't see anything yet, but we see this. We have some code down here. Let's continue working on it and see what's happening. Inside that div again, we're going to have another div also. So let's create another div and we can say upgrade to pro. After upgrade to pro, underneath the div, we're going to have a paragraph and we're going to say get access to all features. And then we're going to have a button underneath the paragraph. So we're going to say button and we're going to say upgrade now. So let's look at it and you can see upgrade to pro, get all features, and then upgrade now. So we're going to style the divs and the button and the paragraphs. So let's start with the div itself. Give it a class and you can say bg-gradient and we can say -to-r. So to R stands for background gradient and then to right. So that's what's happening right now. And then we're going to say from -primary, and then we're going to have an opacity of 20. And then we're going to say to-blue-400 and then opacity of 20 again, and then p-4. And then we're going to say rounded-large, and then border, and then border-primary, and then opacity of 30. Let's see if we're going to see anything. And yes, we can see something down here. You can see here it is. So I just zoomed out a little bit on my website. And then we're going to style the upgrade to pro div. So we're going to give it a class. And we're going to say text-sm, and then font-semibold, and then mb-2. And then if we look at our site, we see this is how it looks. Next, we're going to style our paragraph text. So give it a class and we can say text dash XS. So that is extra small, and then text dash gray dash 400. And then next we can say MB dash 3. And then we can style our button. Give it a class. I don't know why I typed that. It should have been class. So you can say class, and then you can say W dash full. So W stands for width, and then BG dash primary, and then text dash white, PY dash 2, that is padding top and bottom. So that is padding vertically, and then rounded dash LG, and then text dash SM, which is small, font dash semi-bold, and then hover, you can have BG, and we can say dash blue dash 500, and then you can have transition so that it transitions smoothly. So if we look back at our site, this is what we have. You see how good it's going to be. Next, we are going to work on our main page. So the crypto exchange page, not page, but section. So if you remember the sidebar div that we had, first let me close a few tabs right now. So I'm going to close this one. Oh, we need to open this one first. So if you look at the first sidebar div, this one, so we have this opening tag. If you click on it and then scroll down, you're going to see where it's closing. So this one is its closing tag. So underneath the closing tag, I want you to create a comment and say, I'm going to say main, and then content. And then now we can close this div, the sidebar div. So if we come down here, we're going to create a div, and then inside that div, we're going to have another div. But first, let's style that div. So I'm going to say class, and then I'm going to say ml-64, not 64, it's 64, and then flex-1, and then we're going to say p-8. And inside the div, we're going to have another div. But before that div, we're going to have a comment first. So I'm going to say top and then bar. Then let's see what we're going to have. Let's create a div, and inside that div we're going to have another div, and inside that div we're going to have an h1, which is going to have the text dashboard, and then underneath the h1 we're going to have a paragraph tag with the text welcome back Alex. So you can say welcome and then back, comma, and then Alex. So if we come back to our site, this is what we have right now. Welcome back, Alex. So let's style this and see what it's going to look like. So first we're going to style the div, and we're going to say flex, and then we're going to say justify dash between, and then we're going to say items dash center, and then MB dash 8. So let's look at our site and see the progress so far, and we can see nothing yet, but we're slowly going to see the change. I forgot, I should have put this one inside class. So here, then paste it inside, and if we look at it right now, still nothing, but we're going to see some change. So we're going to style the h1, and we're going to say class, and then text dash to Excel, and then font dash bold. I think that should make some change, and you can see we have some changes right here. And then we're going to have a paragraph next, which is going to be what we're styling. So we're going to say again class, and then we're going to say text dash gray dash 400, and then that's just it. And we can see it's a little bit lighter than the h1. So let's continue. So underneath this div, we're going to have another div. So let's create the other div, and we're going to say div, and we're going to have a class, and then we're going to say flex, then items, dash center. So flex is for display flex, and then items dash center, and then we can have space dash x dash 4. After that, we're going to have another div inside, and this one is going to have a class also, and we're going to give it a position relative. So you see in Tailwind CSS, it's so easy because you just say relative instead of position, and then colon, and then relative, and then semicolon to close it. So after saying relative, inside the div, we can have another div, and then we're going to style it again. So we're going to have class. We can say absolute. So the parent is relative, so the child is going to be absolute. And then insert dash y, sorry, y not 7, dash y, and then dash should be 0. And then we can say left dash 0, and then we can say pl dash 3, and then flex, and then items dash center, and then pointer dash events dash none. And then inside that div, we're going to have an icon. So we can say I, press enter, and then give it a class, and we're going to say FAS, and then FA dash search, and then text dash gray, and then dash 400. So let's look at what we have right now. We don't see it yet, but we're going to see it shortly. So actually I had forgotten to type H, but once I've typed H, you see here is our search button. So let's continue. So underneath the div, this one, the one we've been styling that has the icon inside, we're going to have an input. So we can say input, and we're going to have type text, and then next we can have class, going to say bg dash secondary. We can say border, and then we're going to say border. So we're going to give the border a color, border dash gray dash 700, and then we're going to say rounded dash LG, and then we're going to say PL dash 10, and then PR. So PL just stands for padding left, and then PR stands for padding right, and we're going to say 4. Then PY, we're going to say 2, and then we're going to have a focus. When someone clicks on the input, we're going to have a ring, so you can say outline dash none, and then focus, we can have ring dash 2, and then again we can have focus, we can have ring. Now the color of the ring dash primary, and then we can have focus again, and we can say border dash transparent, and then we can have placeholder. So placeholder is interclass, so it should be outside the class, so you can say placeholder, and we can say search, and then a few dots. So let's look at what we have right now, and we see here it is, we have search. So if we click inside it, you can see we have a blue ring. That's nice, great. So let's continue. So underneath the div, we're going to have a button. You can just type button, and inside the button, we're going to have an icon. So you can say I, and then give it a class, and we can say FAS, FA dash bell, and then text dash gray dash 400. So let's look at what we have, and this is the bell that we have right now. And underneath the bell, we're going to have a span with the text 3 inside. So if we look at it, we have the bell and then 3. So let's style the span. So let's give it a class, and you can say absolute. After absolute, we're going to say top dash 0, and then right dash 0, and then negative empty dash 1. So negative margin top, we're going to give it 1, and then negative MR, which stands for negative margin right, we're going to give it again 1, and then we can say BG dash danger, and then text dash white, and then text dash extra small, and then we want to have rounded, so we want to have a rounded border, and you can say dash full, and then next we can say width W-5, and then H-5, and then flex, and then items dash center, and then finally we can have justify center. If we look at our website, the 3 has disappeared, but we're going to style the parent container, and then everything is going to be okay. So now let's style the button. Let's give it a class, and we're going to give it a width of 10, and then height is going to be 10 also, and then we're going to give it BG dash secondary, and then we're going to have rounded dash LG, and then flex, and then items dash center, and then justify dash center, and then we're going to have a border, and the color of the border is going to be border dash gray dash 700, and then we're going to say hover BG dash accent, and then we're going to have transition. Here is what we have right now. We have this cool border outside our icon. So let's continue. So underneath the button, we're going to have another div. So I'll create a div right here, and then I'm going to create another div inside that div, and it's going to have an icon. So I'm going to type I and then press enter, give it a class, and then I'm going to say FAS, and then FA dash user, and then text dash white, and then text dash SM. So if we come back to our site, we're going to see this user icon. Let's continue, and then I'm going to create another div, and inside that div I'm going to have 2 divs again. So div 1, and it's going to say Alex, and then Johnson, and then I'm going to create the second div, and it's going to have admin. So let's work on the divs and see what we're going to get. So this is what we have right now, but we need to style it now. So the first div, this one, the parent div that we created before we created the other divs inside of it, I'm going to type class, and then I'm going to say flex, and then items dash center space dash x dash 3, and then BG dash secondary, and then we're going to have rounded dash LG, which is large, and then P dash 2, which is padding, and then border, and then after border we're going to have the color of the border, which is border dash gray dash 700. So if we look at it, this is what we have right now. So let's continue styling it. So we're going to style the div with the icon. Let's type class, and then we're going to give it a width of 8, height of 8, BG dash gradient dash 2 dash R, and then we're going to say from dash primary, and then 2 dash blue dash 400, and then we're going to say rounded dash full, and then flex, and then items dash center, and then justify dash center. So let's look at what we have. Great. Now you can see we have a white background, not a white background, a light blue background with our icon inside. So next, let's work on our other div. So we're going to style first the div with the name. So give it a class, and then we're going to say text dash sm for small, font dash semi bold, and then we move to the next div with the text admin, give it a class, and we can say text dash xs extra small, and then text dash gray dash 400. And this is what we have right now. You see how our website is coming to life and it looks very, very beautiful. So let's continue. So if we come to this top bar div, you see this div that we have here underneath the comment top bar. If we click on it, I want you to come to the left side and you're going to see this arrow pointing down, and click on it. And now we're finished with that section. So underneath the closing tag of that div, we're going to create another div and we're going to give it a comment. So we're going to say stats grid. So stats stands for statistics, and we're going to have a div which is also going to have other divs inside it. But first we're going to style this div and give it a class, and we're going to say grid, and then grid dash calls dash 1. So grid dash columns dash 1, and then for medium screen we want grid. So you see now we've started working with responsive design because we are now typing medium. MD stands for medium. Grid dash calls dash 2, and then for large we want grid dash calls dash 4. So in large screens we want 4 grids, and in medium screens we want 2 grids. And then gap we're going to have 6, and then MB we're going to have 8. So if we look at it right now, of course we're not going to see anything, but if we continue and put some content inside the div, we're going to see what you're working on. So I want you to create another div, and I want you to style the div immediately. So give it a class, and we're going to have bg dash secondary, and then we're going to have rounded dash excel p dash 6 border, and then border dash gray dash 800, and then hover you want border dash primary, and then we want an opacity of 50, and then transition dash all, and then duration dash 300. So let's look at what we have right now. This is what we have. So you can see if I hover on it, we have a blue background. Okay, let's continue. Inside that div, we're going to have another div. So let's create another div, and then we're going to give it a class, and then you can say flex, and then justify between, and then items dash start. Great. And inside that div we're going to have again another div which we're not going to style, but inside that div we're going to have a paragraph which we're going to style. So we're going to say total revenue. That is the text we're going to have inside our paragraph tag, and we're going to say text dash gray, and then dash 400. Nope, it should be inside class. So we're going to say text dash gray dash 400, and then text dash sm, which is small. So you can see total revenue, and then we have small. Underneath the paragraph tag we have a h3. We're going to have 24,000, and then we're going to have 568. So let's style our h3. You can say class, you can say text dash 2 excel, and then font dash bold, and then mt dash 2. Margin top is 2, and you can see this is what we have right now. And underneath the h3 we're going to have another div which you're going to be styling. You can give it a class, and you can say flex, and then items dash center, and then mt dash 2, and then text dash success, then text dash sm, which is text small. And then we can have an I, which is icon, give it a class, and then we can say FAS, and then FA dash arrow dash up, and then MR dash 1. So this is what we have, arrow up. And then if we come underneath the I, we're going to have a span and say 12.5%. And that's what we have. You see how good it looks? Our dashboard is coming to life. So let's continue. So we're going to create another div underneath that div. So underneath this div, if we click on it, we're going to create another div. So create a div and then open it, give it a class, and then we start styling. So we can say bg-secondary, secondary, and then rounded-excel p-6, and then next you can say border, and then border-gray-800, and then hover, and then you can say border-primary, and then you can say /50, and then transition dash all, and then duration dash 300. And inside that div, we're going to have another div. So we can say div, we're going to have some text inside that div. So we're going to have a p tag, and we can say active users, and then underneath it h3, and then we're going to have 1,842. And then next we're going to have another div, and we're going to have an icon. I'm going to give it a class, and I'm going to say FAS FA dash arrow dash up, and then MR dash 1, which is margin right. And then we're going to have a span, and we're going to say 8.2%. And if we look at our site, this is what we have. We have this small div inside our other div. So it's time to style that div. Not style the div, but the paragraph, the h3, and the other div. So we can style the paragraph by saying, not text, it should be class. And we're going to say text dash gray dash 400. And then we're going to say text dash sm. And then if we look at it, this is what we have, active users. And then the h3, this is what we're going to say, text dash to excel, and then font dash bold. No, we should create class first. So say class, and then we say text dash to excel, and then font dash bold, and then empty dash 2, and then we style this div. We say class, and we say flex, and then we say items dash center, and then empty dash 2, and then text dash success, and then text dash sm. And if we look at it, this is what we have. So I made a mistake. This div should be outside the other div. So if I cut it, so we have this first div, and then we have the other div, and then underneath it, now we put this div so that we can have the cards side by side. So you can see right now we have this card, and then we have another one, and we're going to create some more. So we have this div. Great. So underneath that div, we're going to create another div. So we're going to style the div. So underneath this div, we're going to have another div. But what you can do is we can just copy this one, and then we press Shift Alt and then down arrow key twice. So 1, 2, and then we can just change the texts. So we can remove active users and say conversion rate, and then I can say 4.8%, 4.8%. And then this div, we're going to change text success to text dash danger. Danger. And then the arrow, of course, has to change. It has to be arrow down. So that means our business is not doing as good as we thought. And then we can have here 2.1%. So if we look at our site, you see we have arrow down and we have conversion rate. So we have to work on our last container. Instead of active users, we're going to have avg.session. So you can say avg, then dot, and then session. And then we're going to have 5m and then 24s, so 5 minutes 24 seconds. And we can have text success, that's correct. And we can have arrow up, yes, that's correct. And then next we can have a span with 3.7%. So right now, if we check our last container, we see everything is working well. Nice. Let's continue working on our other containers. So next, we're going to create another div, but first we're going to create a comment. So we're going to close our stats grid div. So just come to the left and then close it. And underneath its closing tag, we're going to create a comment and we're going to say charts and tables. Okay, so we're going to create a div. And inside the div, we're going to have a few other divs. But first, let's create this div. So we say class, and then we say grid, and then grid dash calls dash 1, and then lg grid dash calls dash 2, and then we're going to say gap dash 8, then mb dash 8. And inside the div, we're going to have a comment again. So we create another comment, and we're going to say revenue. You're going to say chart. Great. So underneath the comment, the revenue chart comment, we're going to have another div, and we're going to have a few other divs inside that div. But first, as usual, we're going to style it. So we're going to say class, and then we're going to say bg dash secondary, and then rounded. We're going to say dash excel, and then we're going to say p dash 6. Nope. P dash 6. And then after that, we're going to say border, and then border dash gray dash 800. So let's look at what we have. We have this container down here, which looks good. And inside that div, we're going to create another div. And inside that div, so first I'll create some space down here. I'm just going to put 2 lines there so that we can know the end of the container. So we will know where we're going to create the other div. So first I create this div. And then next I'm going to give it a class. And I'm going to style it. I'm going to say flex and then justify dash between. And then items dash center. So it should be dash center. And then MB dash 6. Dash 6. That's nice. So we're going to say H3. And then inside the H3, we're going to say revenue. This should be small e, revenue. And then we can say overview. And then we're going to have underneath the H3 a div. And we're going to have some styles in it. So we're going to say class. And then we're going to say flex. Flex, not felx. And then we're going to say space. Space dash x dash 2. And then inside the div, we're going to have 3 buttons. So I can just say button times 3. And you can see we have 3 buttons. So I'm just going to put it in new lines. So the first button is going to say week. The second button is going to say month. And then the third button is going to say year. And now it's time to style our buttons. We're going to have almost the same styling for the buttons, but we're going to change only a few things. So what we can do is we don't want to go over all the buttons, typing everything again and again. So what I'm going to do, I can just press Control Alt and make sure the cursor is where I want it to be. So mine, I want it to be in front of the text button. So I'm going to press Control Alt and then down arrow key, and you can see I'm selecting 3 buttons at the same time. So anything I do is going to apply on all those tags. So if I press enter, you see we have space in all the 3 tags. And then I'm going to type class and then just type class, then press enter. And I'm going to say px-3, and then I'm going to say bg, not bg first, I'm going to say py, py -1. I'm going to say bg dash, let's say primary, and then I'm going to say text dash, I'm going to say gray dash 400. So you see the styles are applying on all the buttons. Then I'm going to say rounded dash LG, and then I'm going to say text dash SM. So if we come back to our website, you see we have these buttons with the same styles. So I'm going only to change a few things. So in my first button, I'm going to say BG, not BG, but I'm going to say text dash white. So this is what I want. I want text dash white. And then coming back to the other 2 buttons, I'm going to say BG dash accent. So again, I can just press Control and then down arrow key and then remove primary and say accent, like that. So you can see it looks like the week button is active because it has a blue background and the text is white, and the others have an accent background. We're going to style our H3. So we're going to say class, and we can say text dash LG and then font dash semi-bold. And if we come back to our site, this is what we have. So after doing that, we're going to create another div. So we created 2 lines down here, so we know this is the end of the div, this one. So we know the next div goes down here. So we're going to say div and then open it. So we're going to style the div. I'm going to give it a class, and I'm going to say h equals to 64. H stands for height, and then bg dash darker. So you should know that Tailwind doesn't have these colors. We created them ourselves. The first time I was showing you that JS code inside the script tag, that it was us overriding Tailwind CSS colors and creating our own so that we can use them. So we have bg dash darker and then rounded dash LG, then p dash 4 and then flex and then items dash end and then space dash x dash 2. So if we look at our site, this is what we have. We're going to have a small chart right here, and it looks amazing. Great. So inside that div, the one we just styled, we're going to have chart bars. So I'm going to create a comment and say chart and then say bars. And underneath the comment, I'm going to have another div. So we created that div here. So let's give it a class, and then we're going to say flex dash 1 and then flex dash call, and then we're going to say items dash center. Nice. And then inside the div, this is what we're going to have. We're going to have another div, and we're going to, it's not going to have anything inside, but we're going to give it a class, and we're going to say bg dash primary, So we're going to try and simulate a real chart. So this div is going actually to work like a bar, and we're going to see it shortly how it's going to look. And then we're going to say width full, and then we're going to say rounded dash t dash lg, t dash lg, and then we're going to say mb dash 2, and then style. This is now actual CSS. Oh, style should be outside the quotes. So this is CSS we're using here, style, and we're going to have height. We're going to say 80%. And then underneath the div, this is what we're going to have. We're going to have a span, and the span is going to say Monday, but we're just going to type mon. And then we're going to give it a class, and we're going to say text dash xs, and then text dash gray dash 400. Now let's look at what we have. We have Monday here. Great. So we're going to select this div, and then we're going to copy it down 6 times. So just select it. If you want to know where it starts and where it ends, I'd say you just click on the opening tag, and then it's going to highlight for you the closing tag. Select it, then Shift Alt, and then down arrow key 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Great. So we're just going to change a few things. So this other div, we're going to change it from 80%, we're going to say 60%. And then we're going to change from Monday, it's going to be Tuesday. So Tuesday. And then we're going to change the third div from 80%, we're going to say 90%. And from Monday, we're going to make it Wednesday. And then the other div, again, we're going to change it. So from 80, we're going to make it 70%. And then this is Thursday. And then we're going to have 85%. And then we're going to have Friday. And then we're going to have from 80%, we're going to have 65%. So 65. And then we're going to have Saturday. So we're going to have Saturday. Actually, I made something wrong here, so it should end with Sunday, and you can see it's ending with Saturday. So you can see we have Monday, Tuesday, something like that, but it should have been Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday. So what I can do, I'm just going to change the first Monday to Sunday. So I could just say Sunday, something like that. And you can see we have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday. Nice. So we're going to close the revenue chart. We're going to come to the where we had our comment. Where is it? Here. This is where we have it, the revenue chart. And then we're going to close it. And then we're going to create another comment. And we're going to say user acquisition. Something like that. And then underneath the user acquisition, we're going to have a div, and we're going to have a class. And this is what we're going to have. We're going to say bg-secondary. And then we're going to have rounded Excel. And then next we are going to have p-6. And then we're going to have border. Then border dash gray dash 800. So you can see I'm having autocomplete, and you can see we have this other container on the right side. So let's start working on that. Actually. So I'm going to have a div inside that div, but before that, I'm going to have a H3. So first I'll create the H3. H3. And then I'm going to have the text user acquisition. Like that. So if we look at our container, this is what we have right now. And then we can style the H3. We can say text -LG, font -semi, bold. Then we can have MB-6, and let's see what we have. This is what we have. Nice. I'm saying nice and I forgot to put it inside a class. So I'm going to cut, then say class, and then paste it inside. And then if we look at it, this is what we have right now. So let's work on our div. Let's style the div. It's going to have only a few styles. So we're going to say class, and then we can say space -y -4. And that's it. Inside that div, we're going to have a couple of other divs. So you can say div, then open it, and then you can say div again. And inside that div, we can have a span that says direct. And we can have another span that says 42%. So let's look at what we have. This is what we have right now, direct and 42%. And we're going to style the div itself. So I can say class, and I can say flex, and then I can say justify between, and I can say text -smb-1. Underneath this div, I'm going to have another div. And here it is. And inside that div, I'm going to have a simple div inside it. So I'm going to have another div, which we're going to use. So I can open class and then say bg-primary. And then I'm going to say h-2, so height 2, and then rounded -full, and then outside, outside the quotation marks, we're going to say style. And we're going to say width, we're going to say 42%, and then close it like that. So I'm going to style the parent div, and I'm going to say class, and then I'm going to say w-full, bg-darker, and then rounded -full, h-2. And if we look at what we have right now, this is what we have. Let's continue. So we're going to select the parent div that we had, the one that has no stylings. So if we click on that opening tag, we're going to select it and copy it down 3 times. So Shift Alt down arrow key 1, 2, 3. And if we look at our graph, this is what we have, but we need to change a few things right now. So let's change a few things. So coming to the next div, we're going to change the span text. From direct, we're going to say organic search, organic, and then search, and we're going to have 28%, and the width is going to be 28. So 28 down here, and we can see we have some changes. So let's do the same on the other 2 containers. So we're going to change the text again from direct to social media. And then it's going to be 18%. 18%, and the width is going to be 18 also. And then lastly, from direct, we're going to have email, going to be 12%. And you can see we have some changes. So you see how beautifully our dashboard is starting to look. We have some user acquisition and then revenue overview. And then we even have the user's name and the role, which is admin. And let's continue and finish the SaaS dashboard, and then we're going to start the crypto exchange section. So we're going to do a few things. So I want you to look for the comment, charts and tables, the one you created. Here it is. And I want you to collapse all this. So after doing that, we're going to have another div, but first we're going to create another container. Not a container, but a comment. And we're going to say recent activity and top products. Underneath the comment, we're going to have a div. And after creating the div, we're going to style it. So we give it a class, and then we're going to say grid, and then grid dash calls dash 1, and then LG, grid dash calls dash 2, and then gap dash 8. That's what we have. And inside that div, we're going to have another div. But before the div, we create another comment, and we say recent activity. And then now we can working on our container. So after the comment, we create a div. We give it a class. You can say bg-secondary. And then you can say rounded-excel. And then p-6 border, and then border dash gray dash 800. After doing that, we go inside the container, but first we can check to see what we've created. And here it is. You can see we have it, and it looks good. So inside the container, we're going to have a h3, and the h3 is going to say recent activity. And then we're going to give it a class. I'm going to say text dash LG font dash semibold. And then we're going to say MB-6, which is margin bottom. If we look at our website, this is what we have, recent activity. Next, what we can have is underneath the h3, we're going to have a div, and we're going to give it a class. So class, and then you say space dash y dash 4. So it's 7 instead of y dash 4. And then inside that div, we're going to have another div. So we have another div, and we can style it directly. So you can say class, you say flex, and then items dash center, and then space dash x dash 4. And then we're going to have p dash 3, and then bg dash accent /50, and then rounded dash lg. So if we look again at what we have this other container inside it. So inside that div again, we're going to have another div. And inside that div that we will have, but before we create what we have inside that div, let's just style it so that we keep the rhythm. I don't confuse you jumping from styling this one to styling another thing. So we can have w-10, then h-10, and then bg-success /20, and then rounded dash lg, and then flex, and then items dash center, and then justify dash center. And inside it, we're going to have an icon. So I can just say I, and then enter, and then give it a class. Going to have FAS, and then FA dash shopping dash cart, and then text dash success. That is the first div we've finished. So we're going to create another div underneath it. and we're going to say div, open it, and then we can give it a class, and it's just going to have flex dash 1. And inside that container, this is what we're going to have. We can say p, then give it a class. First, let's give it a text. We can say new order, and then we can simulate some numbers there. We can say 2841. And if we give it a class, we can say font dash medium, and then we can go to the next paragraph. We can say p, and we can say 2 minutes ago, and then we can style that paragraph again. You can say class text dash sm text dash gray dash 400, and then underneath the div we can have a span. And inside the span you can say plus, then $128, and now we can style the span. So you can give it a class and say text dash sm text dash gray dash 400. So let's look at what we have. This is what we have. Look at how beautiful it is. You see how good it looks? So I made a mistake here. I should have said rounded LG. So if we come back, we can see we have rounded borders. So we're going to copy this twice, and we can just select it and then Shift Alt down arrow key 1, 2. And if we look at it right now, this is what we have: recent activity, and then we have 3 orders. So we're going to change a few things. Let's start with the second one. So the paragraph tag is going to say, we're going to say new user registered, and then we're going to say 15 minutes ago. We can just change 15, and then lastly we can say hi server load, and then we can say 30 minutes ago. So you can say 30 minutes ago. And if we look at our page again, this is what we have. And I think I forgot to change a few things. The other divs don't have the span underneath it, so this span we're going to remove it, and also we're going to remove this span here. So if we come back, this is all we have. Correct. That's nice. We're going to collapse again this recent activity tab. So just click on it and collapse it. So underneath this tab, the closing tag, I'm going to create another div. But first, as usual, I'm going to create a comment first so that we can remember what we are doing. So I can say top products. And then underneath it, this is what we're going to do. We create a div, open it, and then style it first. We'll give it a class of grid, and then we give grid dash calls. Nope, that was wrong. This is what I should do first. So I'm going to say bg dash secondary, and then I'm going to say rounded dash xl, and then p dash 6, and then border dash gray dash 800. So let's look at what we have. Here is the container itself. So inside that container, the div, we're going to have other divs. But before the other divs, we're going to have an h3, and it's going to say top products. And I'm going to style the h3. So I'm going to say class text dash LG, font dash semi-bold, and then MB dash 6. Let's look at what we have. This is what we have, and it looks great. So underneath the h3, create a div, open it, give it a class, and we're going to say space dash y 4. And that's all. Inside the div, we're going to have another div. Open the div, but first we're going to add a class and give it our stylings. So we give it a class and we say flex and then items dash center and then justify dash between p dash 3 and then bg dash accent / we're going to say 50 and then rounded dash lg. Inside the div, we're going to have another div and we're going to style it. So we give it a class and add our stylings. We're going to say flex and then items dash center and then space dash x dash 3. And then inside the div again, I'm sorry for boring you with inside the div, we have another div. We give it a class. We give it width of 10, height 10, bg dash gradient, and then we say from should be primary, so from dash primary, and then 2, we can give it blue 400, and then we can have rounded dash lg, and then flex, and then items dash center, and then justify dash center. And inside this div, we can have an icon. So we can say I, and then we can give it a class. And you can say FAS, and then FA dash box, and then text dash white. And then underneath that div, we come and create another div. And then, yes, we create another div, but this one we will not be styling the div. So we open the div and we can have a few paragraphs there. And you can give it a text of premium plan. And then if we style this paragraph, this is what we're going to say. We can say font dash medium. And then we move to the next. We have another paragraph tag. We can say 24 cells. So we style the P. We give it a class and say text dash sm text dash gray dash 400. Let's look at what we have. This is what we have, and you see it looks great. So let's continue. So we're going to select this container and copy it down twice. So Shift Alt 1 2. Nice. And if we look at our container, this is how it looks. So let's change a few things. And also I forgot we had I forgot to add a span. So underneath the div with the paragraphs, we have a span, and inside the span we have, let's say, dollar and then 2,400. And then we can just style the span quickly. You can say class, and you can say text dash success, and then font dash semi bold. Nice. And you can see this is what we have right now. So this span, I think I put it somewhere wrong. Let me see where it should be. I can just select it and then move it outside that container. And yes, you can see it looks nice. So I'm going to remove these other divs and then copy it again so that we can copy them with the span. So here it is. Just take that one out and then also select this one. Remove it. So we do it again. We copy it with the span. Select it. Then 1, 2. Nice. And then now we can change the paragraph from premium plan. We can say, let's say business, and you can say suite, and you can say 18 cells, 18 cells, and then the span can say 1800, 1000, and then 800. And then the other container we can give it, let's say enterprise, and we can have 12 cells, 12 cells, and we can change this to, let's say dollar, then 4,000, or We can give it 4,500. And if we come back and look at it, this is what we have. And that's it for SaaS Dashboard. We're going to come back with part 2 of this, and we're going to work on Crypto Exchange section. See you in the next one.